Well, good morning, everybody. Early cable issues. Good morning and welcome to day 2 of Journalism and Media Week. This is the first of 7 sessions that we have today. And I think it's safe to say that for anybody working at university, at whatever level, nothing gives us greater pleasure than to see graduates getting a job and carving out a niche for themselves. And joining us today, we have 6 people who have done just that. 4 here in the theatre and 2 joining us on the screen. So there's going to be a little, I hope, say hello. There we go, good. First of all, a round of applause for our alumni. So we've banked some audio, so that'll be useful later if it all goes wrong. I thought it'd be really useful rather for me to introduce everybody and then we'll end up repeating everything, is for each of the members of the panel to introduce themselves, tell us when they were at the university or when it was called a college a few years back, and also to give a quick snapshot of what in heaven's name they do now, and then we shall dig a bit deeper. So let's just take it along the row for the 4 in the theatre, and then we'll move to our 2 guests who are joining us virtually, who are not AI generated, I sincerely hope. So Ashley, take it away.
Yeah, so lovely to meet you all. I studied sports journalism here between 2016 and 2019. I've done about 4 years working freelance for the Premier League on match days. I worked for the charity of Paul Huddersfield Town for about 2.5 years, and I now work in PR in the wider communications team at Everton in the Premier League.
My name is Danny O'Connor. I was here, a lifetime ago.
I know the dates.
It was 1986. I am a former employee of Radio 1, and I am currently peddling my wares as a freelance, but I run my own company as primarily a filmmaker. So that's me.
Joseph.
Hello, I'm Joseph Keith. I'm from Leeds. I did literature at Bradford, and then here, 1 year postgrad print journalism diploma, I think it was called. It's not called that anymore. A year in, 8 months into the course, I got a job working in Wakefield at the Wakefield Express, which is at the time it was mostly a print weekly newspaper. After that, spent a couple of years working for the weeklies. Managed to get a job at the Yorkshire Evening Post, which is Leeds' biggest city daily title. Worked my way up, qualified as a senior journalist there. Joined Newsdesk, working for the Yorkshire Post and the Yorkshire Evening Post. Continued working my way up to become news editor during lockdown, which was pretty tricky. After head of news, became a deputy editor, so responsible for the production of the print product, with a little bit of the website thrown into it, and now I'm the editor of the YEP, responsible for all content, all social media, the entire online presence, and we average somewhere between 7 and 12 million page views a month, so one of the largest regional websites in the country. I mentioned to Andrew and Lindsay before I came, we were recently named by Press Gazette as one of the largest news brands in the country, which is a testament to all the hard work. We've done a lot of switching to digital. But yes, fond memories of my time here.
Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul Wroblewski. Danny, I go back even further than you, mate. Yeah. I think the Romans were still here when no, class of 82. I've never had a job, ever. I've just had a hobby that I love. I studied drama and English here when there was a drama department. And then one of the placements I had here with the media side, I worked at the Everyman in Liverpool. Then when I graduated, joined Central TV as a floor manager in Birmingham. That closed. I then went freelance, made a short film and became a drama director. So I've done most of the soaps, Silent Witness, Blue Murder, The Bill, you name it. And then finished up working at Line Pictures, who make Hollyoaks and Towie. I did do 2 seasons of Towie. Not as a director, but in the edit, creating the drama. That's it, really, in a nutshell at the moment.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the screen and introduce and say hello to Joe.
Hello, I'm Joe Rawson. I graduated in 2012. I'm currently the sports editor of Sky News Radio, which means that I run the radio bit of Sky News, and we send out sports content to the whole of the commercial radio network, and I get to attend and report from Premier League matches and events like Wimbledon and the World Cup. I also do a bit of commentating as well, so you might hear me on the Sky Sports Red Button, and I also do some TV presenting, so I present news bulletins. From university, I did all sorts in terms of freelancing in the industry, including being Darren Harper's news and sports reader on his breakfast show at Radio Yorkshire.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And last but not least, hi, Isaac.
Hi there, guys. I hope you can hear me okay. My name's Isaac. I am the sports presenter for the BBC World Service's breakfast programme. It's called Newsday. It's the most listened to breakfast programme in the world. It has about 50 million listeners a week. I went to Leeds Trinity between 2007 and 2010 when I did my bachelor's in sports journalism. And then I went back in 2011 and did a postgrad diploma. I got my job in the BBC via that postgrad diploma, a work experience, and that sort of turned into a couple of opportunities a little bit later on. But yeah, I cover a variety of sports from football, which is the main one, to American football, cricket, tennis, rugby, everything, you name it. And yeah, I've just finished a shift, so I'm a little bit bleary-eyed, so forgive me.
Thank you very much. And the one thing that our 2 guests online have in common is you both attended the last World Cup in Qatar as well for bitter rival networks as well. So there you go, you do have something in common. I think if you look back at the decisions all 6 of you made on why to go to college or uni, and you might have been full of ideals and ideas and wanting to change the world, I'm very interested to know in how that evolved over your time at uni. And you've obviously told us now what you do, but when you filled in UCAS forms or whatever form of application form back in the day, did you think it would turn out as it has? On you go.
I'd say probably not. Obviously, as a A-level age, and I was always a big sports fan, and I knew that I really wanted to be a writer. Basically, I just wanted to write. So when I came to university, obviously, that was the skill set that I sort of narrowed down in with your match reports and your news, and there was obviously a lot of other things on offer like radio, TV, but that was, if I'm honest, it never really interested me. It was all about the writing. So I guess did I think it would happen? No, because obviously there's our class had 30-40 odd people. You've got universities across the country, across the world. You've got thousands of graduates, but I think I tried hard enough to get there, and thankfully I have.
Did the sports part of your undergrad degree here help you to work for a football club, or do you think if you'd been on a straight journalism degree, it would have been any different?
I don't think it would have been different, no. I think the key skills you need would be taught across all journalism disciplines, to be honest. Let's say writing, research skills are quite important that quite often get overlooked. We do a lot of, in my role, it's quite, people find it a bit weird when I say it, but my role is like non-football communications, so anything to do with the football club that's not football in a sense. So you've got our new stadium project, we've got our international teams, our commercial partners, we can go on. So it's about making sure that basically the brand name of Everton is protected wherever it goes. That's a lot of sort of media relations as well. So it's about speaking to journalists. Are they doing the right thing? Are they saying the right thing? If not, how can we make them try and say the right thing? So I think I've gone away a bit from your question, but
Quite all right. We've got loads of time. You can wander as much as you like. And tell everybody about the location of one of your best office locations that anybody can have in the country. Where do you work?
well, we're based on the Liverpool waterfront. There's a Royal Library building there that's quite a historic building. On our look out the window, you can see the new stadium project, which we're hoping will be finished sort of next winter. Potentially move it over there, and obviously we've got loads of sites. We've got Goodison Park, we've got the training grounds, we've got our Everton the community sites as well. So we're spread out, but yeah, the library building is certainly a really nice place to work, and going to the city centre, definitely.
Danny, why did you want to come to college/uni, and has it turned out as you thought it would?
I started with, speaking really honestly, I was absolutely flummoxed as what to do. I knew academically that I was capable of getting a job, but I knew tactically that the best way to get a job was to go to college, as it was then. Fast forwards, what changed everything was my work placements. I don't know whether they still exist.
We'll come on to those, absolutely.
All right, okay. So I did my first work placement at the end of my first year, and that was with a small newspaper, very small, regional newspaper in Donegal in Ireland, which is my home of sorts. And I thought, right, okay, I've nailed this, but you know, it wasn't what I wanted really. And I did, my second year, I went to BBC Radio Scotland, and that changed my life. By definition, that profoundly impacted on me. And I left Radio Scotland wanting to be a war correspondent. Absolutely, wholeheartedly, 100%. And I went into radio news thinking I was Orla Guerin. For those of you who don't know who Orla Guerin is, she's a sturdy, hardened, you know, forever, perennial sort of war correspondent, still is. And I went, I spent time in Sarajevo and whatever, and I thought, this isn't, I'm scared. I'm really terrified, you know. And I thought, oh, my goodness. And Sarajevo, for those who don't know, is in the bottom of a bowl. You know, geographically, there's no way out. And so I was there one night, sitting in the middle of the Holiday Inn, and suddenly I thought, there's easier ways to make a living than this. And I was so desperate to get out of there, obviously. And I thought, right, okay, I'll come back. I went back into the BBC, and I thought, fundamental shift. And I then set my sights on creating a new future for myself. And I then set about setting up Document, which is my company. And this was 20 years ago, and I made a focus, I focused on, should I say, pop culture. And that was what I inherently loved. And I studied English when I was here, and that informed me. I loved, certain bands and whatever, and that informed me. I thought, what is it you really, really, at the end of the day, want to do? And I thought, right, have the gumption to follow your dreams, and I did, and I've ebbed and flowed, and life's tough, I won't lie, but I made the right choice.
Music saved you, in a way, because there's a thread of music that, since you switched from news, that it has really been a fundamental part of everything you've done. So.
Very much so,
Joseph, there's a colleague of mine in journalism who went into university because he wanted to change the world, but he said he now finds himself crunching data on the dining room table. So the industry has definitely changed. Did you always want to be a journalist?
Yeah, is the short answer. I was always that kid on the carpet in primary school that when you asked them what they wanted to be, I wanted to be a journalist. That's all I ever wanted to be. I didn't really know how I would be one, but I was fairly sure I could make it work. I knew I didn't want to do a journalism undergrad, so sorry for anyone that is or has done one. But I wanted to do English because I liked English. Thought it'd give me a good grounding. Obviously, I already knew English, so now looking back, it seems. But it did, in a way. I can write poems, which is great. But it stood me in good stead to go on the postgrad here. I didn't do great in my degree. I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't apply myself that great. And when I was here, speaking to Lindsay before we started, I had application issues a little bit when I was here. But when I started in the newsroom for my first job, I was just in the zone. It was where I wanted to be. I loved the newsroom. I loved the banter of it. I loved the way that it worked. I loved working to deadlines. And I think that's something that shaped my whole life, the deadlines. And I don't know what I'll do one day if I ever leave or get something new or change plans. Because without those daily deadlines, and even when we talk about online and print, there's still deadlines. I still need the team to file copy by a certain time. Still need stories published every day to a calendar, ready for certain times. So I always knew I wanted to be a journalist. It was just getting there, I think.
Thank you. Paul?
Well, I think there's one common theme running throughout through all of us, and that's that none of us did a degree specific to what we do now. I mean, it's like none of us studied, I want to be a lawyer. You study law. It's obvious, but none of us studied a subject or an area that would lead to a specific point. We just, I think, collectively had an idea of what kind of area we'd like to go into. Me, certainly, it was television, but I didn't know what I wanted to do in television at that point. It was only once I was in that I felt, right, that's a director. That's what I want to do. That's for me. So I'd just say, anybody studying here, the degree you do, whatever it is, and you said it doesn't really matter what degree you do. If you have a kind of vague focus, that's almost doesn't sound right, does it? But if you have a vague focus of what you really want to do, then it's the practical side of the degrees here, the placements that you go on, the contacts that you make, and it's about you. It's what you put into it. You can easily make contacts with whatever placement you go to, and then you're a complete pain in the arse by keeping in touch and over communicating with the contacts you've made. It's finding that balance of going, right, what's the next door that can open for me? And you have to be leaning on that door when it opens. And that's I think, a pathway.
Let's stick with the vague focus theme then, and move to the screen and Joe Rawson. Joe, you studied journalism. You're still in journalism, so I guess it's kind of worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I knew exactly what I wanted to do from a young age. I used to do commentary to a television screen, and I loved radio and I loved TV. And I was doing hospital radio at sort of 15, 16, and didn't then start university till I was 21. And that's because I realised being in newsrooms that I needed that degree to get me where I wanted to be and where I am now. Where I disagree a little bit with the last speaker is, for instance, at Sky, without having my journalism degree or some sort of journalism qualification, I wouldn't be in the Sky newsroom. Particularly with the stuff around law and when you're doing news reporting and the legal aspects, even in sports journalism, it's very important. I'm often talking about court cases or writing about court cases. The Mason Greenwood recent example is a good one. And a lot of people in the industry were saying that he was acquitted, he got off, and it wasn't actually that. The case was dropped because of a lack of a witness, and if we didn't write it properly, I'd have been getting a lot of grief from people above me. So yeah, the journalism degree was very important for me in getting into certain places. But the work experience, as previously has been mentioned, and doing stuff while at uni. So I set up a podcast. I was part of Leeds Student Radio. I helped out with the television. What's the word? The Leeds Student newspaper as well. Anything that I could sort of get involved in that was connected to journalism and media while I was at uni, I did. And it was sort of that extracurricular stuff that helped more in getting into the industry, because when I was applying for jobs, I had good examples and demos and stuff like that, which really helped me get into my first work placements, my first paid work.
Joe, thank you very much. Let's move on to Isaac. And Isaac, you studied broadcast journalism at postgrad level, 2010, 2011. So I guess even then you had a pretty good idea of what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so before that I did sports journalism, and that course is quite interesting. And I think the thing that I'm hearing from everyone here is everyone's story of getting into the industry is quite different. And for me, the broadcast journalism degree was like massively important, because I don't think I would have been able to get into the industry if I'd have just had the sports journalism bachelor's. I really needed that postgrad, which gave me sort of work experiences, and even though it was a broadcast course that was focused primarily on news, they managed to help me get into a sports placement, and that's how I managed to kind of get in. But I remember after my sports journalism degree applying for jobs and not really getting anywhere. So for me, I had some placements in which, when I look back now, I'm astonished that I've actually managed to craft a career out of it, because some of them were not very good. I was quite shy, and was a little bit within myself when I went to these work experiences, and I didn't particularly show the best parts of myself. But I think for me personally, my story, it was just needing someone to kind of give me an opportunity. And once I got the opportunity, which was not in news, not in journalism, but was just in working in an outreach event, that's how I was able to kind of get my foot in the door, which is what I always tell people who ask me how to get into the industry, is just try and get your foot in the door, whether that's a contact that you meet who might offer you some advice, to someone who gives you an opportunity to come in and follow them on a day and see how they work. Just trying to be persistent but not be annoying, as I think someone said earlier on.
Thank you for that. We've got 20 minutes to go, and for those who have got questions, just start to think about them, because I'll open it out in about 10 minutes, because I think one of the key roles of a panel like this is to give you help or advice, hints or tips on and guide you through the choppy waters of finding work based on their experiences about how they can help you with this session. A few of you have already mentioned placements. Now, one of the real benefits of studying here is that there are mandatory placements, and I've always said that we shouldn't just dish them out to whoever in a sort of queue basis, that they should be linked to, ideally, to your aspirations. So as I've said to my MA group, there's no point us giving you a placement in carpentry when you want to be a plumber. So I'm quite keen to get all your thoughts on the whole notion of placements. Did you do one? One or two of you already hinted that it did help you, but I'm interested in the placement you did, and did it have an impact on your future direction of travel? So, Ashley.
Yeah, I did a placement in both second and third year, both written based. So, like I said earlier, it was always writing. So, first year I think was a company called Planet Sport, who have like the Team Talk umbrella, and third year was Fresh Press Media. The second one was quite helpful in that it obviously led on to a bit more paid sort of work afterwards, which is always helpful as a student. But I think obviously when we are students, we have quite a lot of free time, and there's always an opportunity to try and take on placements that aren't mandatory and aren't within that sort of set time frame. I was completely lucky, to be honest. I applied for a national competition through Barclays Bank, and they took me on it was called Work Experience of a Lifetime, where I went down to Premier League offices in London for a week, did that, and then I did 4 more years paid freelance work for them just from that. So it's obviously with the mandatory work, it's great, and obviously trying to battle your fellow students to get those ones and impress on that, but wherever you can, try and seek out your own placements and make sure that they're right for you and you can make an impression.
Brilliant, thank you. Danny, were you given a placement, or did you tell the college where you wanted to go?
Oh, very much. I told the college where I wanted to go. I chose Ireland. I chose Donegal News and the Derry People because no one had ever heard of it, as doubtless is still the case. Radio Scotland, in my second year, everyone had heard of it. And there was one key moment when I was there. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, David someone. And I remember him saying to me, there's this great new band, and they're called Nirvana. And I thought, right, okay, right. And Nirvana had just released their debut album, Bleach. And I listened to it, and I thought, my goodness, right, there's something in this. Fast forward 4 years to one of my first jobs, which was with Radio Trent in Nottingham. And Nirvana were playing at Rock City. And I thought, oh, okay, go along. Nirvana weren't, the household name that they became at this stage. And I went along, and I'll never ever, well, no one can ever forget, it made an indelible impression upon me that Kurt Cobain said to me, he was lying on the floor, right, prostrate. And I said, what do you call him? Mr. Cobain? Kurt? I didn't know what to say. And the long and short of it was, he said to me, lie down, you no good Elvis. Mother doodah. And that was a rude awakening. And that is where my work experience took me. It was a renaissance it was a revelation. So
Thank you. Joseph, did you lie on the floor with Kurt Cobain?
No, I didn't quite hit those heady heights, I'm afraid. My work placement, so as I said, I did the postgraduate one-year diploma in print, which I think has now moved into being an MA, but still works largely the same way, I think. Because I got a job like 10 months into it, once I'd started to do the broadcast side of it, which I was never keen on, just because I wasn't, boo, yes, I know. You know, I think if you know, you one or the other, I still think that, although the lines have been a bit more blurred these days. It was a placement, but it turned into a trial. It became clear I had like 2 weeks at Wakefield, Wakefield Express. I remember getting into the newsroom thinking, oh God, what have I done? It just felt really old school. You know, the lights weren't like, it sounds silly, doesn't it? The lights weren't like cool lights. They were like yellow, old lights, dimmed. Some of the things didn't work. Toilet lock didn't work properly. Everything was just a bit old. And I found it a bit strange. But then once you start getting stories and seeing people getting front pages and hearing people on the phone, it was like, whoa, this is good. Found out that there was someone else doing a placement 2 weeks after me. They'd get 2 weeks, and then they'd see if they wanted someone to come back. I was like, right, I'm doing it. Ended up obviously getting the job, which was great. But without that placement-y trial, whatever you want to call it, I don't know where I would have got to, because that was sort of the last tranche of jobs that were going in West Yorkshire weekly newspapers, and they were at the time the feeder to the dailies. So that was always the dream, to become a daily reporter. I joked to a lot of people that I had to leave Leeds, even though I'm from here, to get back and work in Leeds, and it did work like that. But my kind of tips to people for placements, if we're taking those, is dress to impress. So don't turn up, you know, looking scruffy or half baked or whatever. You want to be getting there, looking ready, like you can work, even if that's virtual. So a lot of our placements have been virtual. We suspended ours at the moment, unfortunately, but a lot of them have to be virtual nowadays. But don't rock up in sort of a football shirt or something, which has happened. Don't do that, because it's the impression. You might only get one. I might only be in 2 or 3 days when you're doing a placement. I might only see you one time, or the news editor might, or whoever. So make sure you show the best version of yourself. Pitch ideas, and you know, bring your A game. I think is. But as it's been mentioned before, try not to be annoying. Be persistent but not annoying, because everyone's busy. That's sort of the key takeaway. But best version, I think.
Was it a Leeds football shirt?
No.
Oh, that's even worse.
No. Absolute bane of my life. Yeah. They
Paul.
don't wear the Leeds ones.
Yeah, at least the top half, if you're virtual. you can forget the bottom half. I did. It was a strange thing. I did drama and English with media in my first year, and that was the placement that I did education after that. So I was teaching, but it was a placement at the Everyman Theatre in Liverpool, working with Barry Gunner, who was head of publicity. And Liverpool at that time, in the 80s, was going through a renaissance, particularly in the arts. So I felt very much like I was part of this city, that the focus was on the arts, was on theatre. So for instance, I took one of the girls from the youth theatre, from the Everyman Youth Theatre. We were looking for venues to do Willie Russell's Our Day Out. And this brilliant young black girl was so focused on what she wanted to do. I want to be an actress. I want to do this. I want to do that. I was going, God, yeah. I'm glad I'm not a girl, because you know, if you had any competition, you'd throw me out of the car, because I was looking for these locations. A year later, she's on film posters. It was Kathy Tyson in a film with Bob Hoskins, and I thought, yep, I knew you'd make it. So that was just a small indication of kind of what was going on at that time for me on that placement, and I kind of felt part of it, and I think that gave me the drive and the ambition to go, do you know what, I want to be a part of this, and made me want to then work with actors, because at that time, the McGann brothers were just starting out, so the theatre itself was just a buzz of talent. Brookside had just hit the air, so, you know, and weirdly, that was the first thing I directed years later. Very lucky to have done. So yeah, that placement was everything to give me that focus.
Spot on, thank you. Joe, on the screen, did your placement, was it in the right place at the right time for you?
Well, as part of the course, we had to do 6 weeks of placements, and I did 3 actually. I did 2 weeks at Zoo magazine, which that was eye-opening, and I decided that wasn't a route I wanted to go down in. But then my others were in commercial radio, and I did 2 weeks at BBC Radio Leeds, and off the back of that, it led to paid work, and yeah, I worked casually at Radio Leeds throughout the rest of my course, and then had some paid work to go into when I graduated. So yeah, I always tell people that the degree is important, but in my role, I'm in management, and I employ people, and yeah, the most important thing I look at on a CV is experience, and I need some examples of work that they've done. So if you're just out of university and you're struggling to get paid work, the way to do that is work experience. So the placements are really valuable, I think. And yeah, be open-minded and try different places as well, like I did. You never know. I might have liked Zoo magazine and gone down the print side of stuff, but you know, it actually put me off of doing print and made me want to go into broadcast, which is obviously what I did.
Thank you very much for that. Isaac, let's just move it on a bit, that the BBC has a sort of centralised placement scheme now where you have to apply and what have you. So I guess occasionally that you find yourself sitting next to somebody who's been sent to your department to do a placement, and they either want to get involved, create ideas, create content, are interested, and there are others who maybe less so. What's your advice to people who do actually get through the door to make the most of that time with you?
I think for me, I was really, really shy. So I did quite a few work experiences and definitely did not show my best self. And it wasn't because I wasn't good, or it wasn't because I didn't have any ideas. I think it was quite overwhelming. I think the thing I would say to people is just be yourself. Just try to, remember the passion that you have, and don't be afraid to pipe up and give an idea, even if it is a bad one. I think people will, all good managers will see someone who has a bit of enthusiasm and is trying. And yeah, you're right. I mean, in the BBC, there are lots of people that kind of are here through work experiences, through apprenticeships, and I think for them, they sometimes you see the confidence sort of grow. So when they first come in, they might be a little bit quiet and a bit circumspect, but as the time goes on, they become a little bit more comfortable and find it easier to give their ideas. And I think that's just from them sort of learning to be comfortable and be open and be who they are.
Thank you for that. So in the spirit of not being afraid to pipe up, does anybody have any questions? Alex, at the back.
Hi, I have a question for Joe about deadlines, and if you have a quick turnaround for that deadline, how do you stay calm when you have such a quick turnaround for that deadline, and how do you do a plan, or how do you go about handling that?
I mean, I work in a constant rolling newsroom, so yeah, we basically every hour is a deadline, so we work to put out stuff for the next hour. How I handle it is by planning and knowing what I'm doing. So on a busy day, we know what, for instance, content's coming in terms of Premier League managers. We know what time their news conferences should come in, and then we know what time we need to get that stuff out for. So planning is the main point about deadlines, but with it being a rolling newsroom and breaking news can sometimes put you off. You know, for instance, if someone dies in that hour, that becomes a bigger story than a news conference. So yeah, it's being flexible with it. And to be honest, I think maybe Joseph, who works in print, would probably be better to answer a question on deadlines, because in the way we work, it's so flexible. You work into the next hour and the next bulletin, but yeah, we don't have set deadlines like a print room would, where you're trying to get out stuff for the next day in a traditional newspaper.
Joe, thank you very much. Is that Mo at the back?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, my question's for Joseph. I wanted to ask, if you were looking to employ a graduate journalist, what is the standout quality you'd look for?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think like tenacity is something that we really look for, but as it's been mentioned, passion. So yeah, you might not be quite there with story writing, you might not have the understanding of SEO that we're quite looking for, maybe your video shooting or editing skills aren't quite what we're looking for right now. But if you're passionate and you can show that, and you turn up and you show up, you've got ideas, you don't need you don't need all the technical skills to come up with ideas. That's just their ideas. You're learning how to spot a story, how to write a story. That's the main part of journalism everywhere, covering stories, and that comes from passion. So I'll 100% say passion.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Question from the back there.
A question for Ash. I'm guessing working in a club like Everton brings a few challenges. You've touched on a few things you've done. What are you most proud of so far during your time with the Toffees?
Very good question. It is a challenge. Obviously, you've got, like you're saying, like rolling news cycles. Even like football clubs can have their own rolling news cycles with results, takeovers, deaths. Was we've had recently. It's not ideal, but I think in terms of proudest thing to date, it sounds corny, but just working that first game, it was when we beat Leeds actually in February. Seamus Coleman 1-0. That was a good day out. So I'd say that just being able to you be there, you're interacting with club staff, staff from other clubs, your journalists, your pitch side, you're helping to bring the events to life. So that was almost like proudest moment in terms of I've sort of finally got my first step in here. I'm here on a match day and I'm working.
Thank you. And we have time for one last question.
This is a question for everyone. What would you say is your biggest achievement of your career?
Let's go with Isaac. Your biggest achievement, sir?
Yeah, I think it has to be last year for me. I was at the World Cup, and I was only supposed to be there for the first few weeks, but one of the correspondents was taken ill, and so I stayed for the whole tournament. And the producer that was with the correspondent was also taken ill. He got coronavirus pretty bad. So I did the last 2 weeks of the competition by myself, and I was at the World Cup final. and I missed the penalty shootout because I had to get outside the stadium to get to our live point and broadcast for the radio 6 o'clock news. And yeah, I did that largely by myself, and I was able to kind of, get my head straight and figure out what I was going to say for this live. It was one of the scariest moments of my life, but when I did it, it kind of revealed to me that actually I can do it. I can do it, and I think sometimes having the belief is the biggest thing that holds people back. And for me, achieving something like that and being able to update people, which has always been my dream, was amazing for me.
Thank you very much. We're almost out of time, but I am keen to get this greatest achievement line from everybody on the panel. So if we could keep them short and sharp and triumphant, that would be brilliant. Joe?
I think my first commentary on Sky Sports a couple of years ago, doing the Football League commentary. I've had a lot of great stuff happen to me over the past few years, but that's what I wanted to do, be a football commentator, and I sort of reached it. So doing Huddersfield against Blackpool on the red button, massive achievement for me.
Thank you. Paul?
This sounds really disingenuous. I'll keep it brief. Winning my first BAFTA, it felt, yeah, okay. The story behind it, I was asked to direct a children's drama called Jeopardy in Australia, and it was the hardest job I'd ever done, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I remember sat while the crew and the cast were on lunch, and I was sat on a rocky outcrop, and a member of the crew said, you stood on an Aboriginal carving, mate, 30,000 years old. And I just sat there thinking, I can't work any harder than this. So on the awards night, when we got the BAFTA, I just went, yeah. I literally couldn't have worked any harder. So it's not triumphal, but
It'll do. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Joseph?
Yeah, no Aboriginal rocks for me, but I would say it's a toss-up between, obviously, taking over as editor here, being from Leeds. It was a really proud moment for me, but also probably my first front page. You never quite get that. You don't lose that feeling. I know we don't think about printing the same way, and the industry's moving on, but that was sort of a special time. It wasn't even a great story. It was about a new petrol station in Morley or something. But I later did a first crime front page in Dewsbury. It was a lot juicier, but it's still those memories sit with you, and knowing that it's going on the front page, it's your name underneath it. It's a really special memory.
Danny?
It sounds like I'm bombing, but my film documentary about Creation Records, home to Oasis and God knows, it won NME award. It was deemed by the Sunday Times to be the greatest rock and roll film ever, and it was surreal. It's kind of like, it's like having a child and letting the child loose. And I'm sure everyone will, agree that it's like yourself, when you create these things, it's like you don't know what's going to happen with them at all. It's out of your hands. You just write it, create it, whatever. And for me, I didn't know. I had no clue. I made this film, let it go, off you go, into the unknown. Good luck. And lo and behold, it won awards. It was critically applauded and lauded, and I toured the world and whatever. But I didn't know this. I didn't do it deliberately, so, there you have it.
Ashley.
Yeah, just change the question slightly to proudest moment, if that's all right. It's just because it's like probably done things that are a bit bigger, but I was really happy when I was at Huddersfield, we did a yearly fundraising event called Big Sleep Out, which we had to then do virtually 1 year, and that was sort of the first time that I'd sort of like manage an event from start to finish, the whole content schedule, press liaison, video, scripts, lighting, anything like that. So, you know, looking back, it's definitely something that sort of hits me back as one of the first time that I'd taken control of something and executed it to a reasonably good standard.
For the students here, I hope that there have been a stack of little nuggets throughout this session. I hope you have learned from it and adapt your search for work in the future based on the brilliant words of our 6 guests. Can you show your appreciation, please?